Hello, John.
Hello, we made it.
Welcome to India.
Thank you. My pleasure.
We are so blessed today to have you as our guest teacher. So we are so excited to interact with you. What a lovely opportunity for me and for all my students to have you as a guest teacher. I have explained to my students about your work on your research work. Just a minute, there is some noise is coming from one of the students' home. So I request the participants to mute your microphones so that we can run the session so smoothly.
Okay.
So yeah, let me talk about John Miller. John Miller has been he has made many research programs on learning based and been a great inspirational. There is a new study going on. Why? So he has been a great inspiration from many teachers across the globe, and the way he works with his children and the kind of games that he use in learning, actually in learning techniques, in different learning techniques. He uses the games and in teaching. So that's really inspirational for the teachers. And he has recently, I think he went to Singapore on research work, and he came back and he simply is a great teacher. He has always been teaching about innovative things to introduce for his students. So today we are so lucky to have him as our guest teacher. We are so excited to have so many questions to be answered by our guest teacher, John Miller. So John Miller, so would you like to introduce yourself as briefly as possible so that we can ask you so many questions regarding your great work at school?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Let's see, can I have the screen share abilities, please?
I will try to, yes, you can do it.
There we go. Okay, so I thought I would start with sharing some things about my classroom, and then I'll tell you about how I use games in school. There are many of you, I bet, like to play games, and so do I, but not all teachers and adults think games can be used for much learning, but I think games can be used for a great deal of learning. And so I'd like to share with you how I use that with my students and give you some ideas about how you could use games for learning. So this is my classroom here. And this is how I have my classroom set up. So I have a big map on the wall. I have lots of books. We try to read a lot and emphasize because my students don't read very well. They are about 12 years old, but many of them read like about at a 7 or 8-year-old level. So it is very challenging to teach the curriculum to students who struggle to read. So I make that's very important to me, that students have a chance to read. And so there's the back of my room, and you see I have a little desk. I teach in the back instead of the front of the room. That's the side of the room. Those are alt shelves where I have books, and I have other things that we use in class, I teach history, but I like things to touch and to play with. I think that's important. I do have computers, but I don't use them all the time because I do think it's good to talk and see each other and use your hands for learning. And then that's the back of the room. And there you can see some of the games that I have. And we use those games students can come in at lunchtime and play when they would like to, but I also use them as part of my class for teaching. I get to teach not just history, but I get to teach a class in how to design games. And so to become a good game designer, you have to play a lot of games. So we get to do that, and the students like it because they've never played most of these games. So we do play board games, card games, but also some video games. So I'd like to share why we use those. If you're a gamer, when you play and I play, we feel things like this. We like games because there's often a good story to follow in the game, and we want to win because we want to free the king at the end of it. We want to defeat the final boss. So there's always a good story to a good game, and that works great for me as a history teacher because history is full of great stories. So I can turn those into games. In games, players like to work really hard for victory, right? We don't like games that are too easy. It's okay if you're teaching little children how to play games, but at the age that you guys are now, we need to challenge. We just don't want too simple of a game. It gets boring. We like a game that has an experience, a game that takes us somewhere, a game that lets us escape maybe the classroom or maybe at home and lets us use our imagination. So that's what I love about games. And a couple of others, I won't hit on all of these, but I love games that have a quest at the end of it. So you're assigned a job that you have to do throughout the game, and you build skills because if you're going to defeat the boss at the end of a game, you have to have good solid skills, and you have to know something before you can defeat the boss. And games also throw at you some unexpected challenges. If it doesn't, then the game can only be played like once because we tend to memorize how to win the game. So if the game can keep changing and can keep throwing different challenges at you, that's a good game. So those are some of the reasons why we play games. And let me share with you the one of the video games that I use is Minecraft. And I started to use Minecraft about 10 years ago. And I discovered that I liked it, which was important. And I had fun creating things in Minecraft, and my students did too. So I thought I could take history, and if I could take something that we're talking about in history, like this, we get to study world history. So we study Baghdad, we study India, we study China, we study the Roman Empire, we study West Africa, we study the Americas, so the Inca and the Aztec. And for our unit that we do on Baghdad or the Islamic empires, the Baghdad in the 8th century, the old Baghdad, was actually round. And it was a center for learning. It was on the Silk Road. And in those days, they emphasized, Islam emphasized education, learning. libraries. And so they built libraries here and they invited scholars to come, religious scholars, academic scholars. So it was really a place of kind of faith and learning. And so I decided this would be a great place to have a lesson in the center of this world, but could we make it in Minecraft? And if you've ever played Minecraft, you know that you can put some characters in there, the NPCs, non-player characters, and the characters can exchange, they can talk with you, they can send you on quest, they can provide you with information and items that you're going to need. So I created a world with my students called the Round City of Baghdad. And there's a look at it. And I'm going to try to share here. I think I have to, I got to be able to see it or hear it. I'm going to have to stop share and then share again for the video. I'm not sure how well the video is going to play this far, but we'll see. Okay. Oops. Didn't share the screen. Can I get the, yeah, thank you. There we go. Okay, so we made a little trailer for this. So this sort of shows you what we created. And there you go. You get the idea. But so what I do is I take the history about the Islamic empires and civilizations, and we put it inside there. So I don't have to stand at the board and teach the students and they just read and memorize. No, they get to experience it. So they get to talk to other characters in there who will tell them what I want them to learn. So they're playing a game, but they're actually learning the information. And then we write about it so that they can write about their adventures. And they kind of write it like a diary or a journal. And so I also use other games and not just Minecraft. This is a game called Timeline that I discovered. And it's really a simple game. It's a series of cards. And the cards, on one side of the cards, they have an event that happened in history. And in this case, it says the invention of the sundial and the first man in space. So you get 4 players and everybody gets 4 cards to start. And you keep the cards face up. That's face up. When you turn the cards over, you'll see they have a date on them, but you're not supposed to look at the date. See, there's the date that it happened. So what you do in this game with 4 players is you try to build a timeline. You take your card, the first one's easy, you put it face up on the board, and then you turn it over, and there's the first date. The next player takes one of their 4 cards and has to determine, does my event happen before or after that one that's already on the board? And then you place it down, turn it over. If you're correct, you leave it there. The next player now has 2 cards there that they have to figure out one of their events. Does it go before? Does it go after? or does it go in the middle? And so you create a timeline like this. And it's a fun game. If you miss it, then you put the card where it's supposed to go and you have to take another card. The winner is whoever gets rid of their cards first. So it's a fun game, but it's kind of for people that like dates and events and things. So I thought I could use this in school for students, and and you can use this yourself. You can these are just paper, and I cut up paper for students, and here's the cards. In this case, the cards show the history of China, and so events in Chinese history, because we were studying China. And so the students, they would write the events on the card. I didn't tell them when they happened until the end of this lesson. They then shuffle up the cards, and each student in that group of 4 gets 3 cards. And their job is to, can I put my 3 cards in order, in the sequence that I want? And everybody did that. And I went to look around to see if everything was working all right. Then I said, now with your partner next to you, put your 6 cards in a sequence, merge them. When they did that, it was time for all the players. So 3, 6, 9, 12 cards. Can you put your 12 cards in order? And that was fun because it required them to really think about what went first and second and the sequence. And I also shared this with my teachers who teach English. And for storytelling, if you've read a book and you've had to follow a story, then how about you could do this? You could have the storyline, all the important events in a story on cards, like flashcards, and you can study it that way. You could do the same for something in maths. If you had an equation you had to memorize and it was long and difficult, put it in cards like that and make a game out of it. So that's a fun game that you don't need to buy the game, not at all, but it's just a fun game to play and to use with students, and you can make that yourself. Okay, and now here is a very fun game called Ticket to Ride. And what Ticket to Ride is as you see, there's a map, and it's a map of Europe, and it's a train game. So you get a bunch of cards that look like this, you collect them, and when you have enough of a certain card, you can place little trains, look like that. There we go. You can place little train cards and claim a route. And the winner is the person that has the most routes. There's some bonuses you can get to for having the longest route and things. And you can try to block other players from completing a route. That's a fun game. It's so fun. There are 20 versions of this game around the world. And there's one for India. So what I love about this in class, yes, it's okay if you wanted to learn where places are in the world. So it's that helps with like younger children that are still learning their way around a map. That's cool. But you could also make your own version of this, and it doesn't just have to be trains, does it? It could be roads, highways. It could be river systems. You could make a version of this that just does for science, just does like natural resources and mountain ranges and valleys, and you can take a tour of learn where everything is in that country you're studying. It could be for something as, it could certainly be for history, and it could be for historical, or places where historical events happened. So I'd like to make games, and we play a game like this so we learn how to make our own version of it. You can mod it. That's a great use of games. Every time I play a game, I usually have my teacher hat on, and I'm thinking, how could I use this in class? And if we can, sometimes we play the game as it is out of the box. Other times we mod it we hack it, and we turn it into something that we can play and learn from that. So this is a great game. Keep an eye out for it. And you can certainly use any of these games in school. I'd love to hear if you could, or if you have played any of these games, or any challenges that you're going to face. So I'll answer any questions you might have now, but I'll leave it with this also. Play is super, super important. We don't, as ask adults, they don't play enough. They wish they were younger and they had more time to play. And playing games is very important to your success as an adult, because it teaches us a great deal more than we can get just out of a book or out of just going to school. It's interacting with people, and it's challenging us in different ways. And there's the game business is huge. The gaming business makes more money than making movies does. So there's board games, card games, video games. Everybody loves to play games, and it's a great field to go into. So I'll answer any questions you have, and I thank you for your time.
John Miller, I think I was really thrilled to watch some of these inventions. I think you put a lot of effort into these games, making it so funny for your students. And especially the game that you have invented, teaching your students about the Baghdad. And so that's really quite intriguing to watch. So definitely these games make the students understand the concept. It not only make them understand the concept, they allow to enjoy the history. Actually, teaching history in my schools is very boring and very hard for the students to understand, because all the teachers, they teach the history as a theoretical subject. So students, they can't imagine the events that took place a long time ago. But through this Minecraft, you can bring the world and you can bring the past events to their memory, to their in their presence. They can see that what is happening in Baghdad, and that's really a great invention. I think you have done really a great job in making your teaching so convenient, so easy for your students. Really great work, and
Thank you.
I'm very proud of you, John. And we do have some questions right now. So could you please? I think you have to do something. I think to make this. Yes, yes. Now it's okay. Yeah. So my students are ready right now to have some questions to get some answers. Yeah. Who is going to ask the first question? Lohit, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Lohit, I introduce you.
Hi, sir. Okay, sir. Hi, sir.
Hello.
How are you, sir?
Very good. Thank you.
My name is Lohita Girja. I am studying 7th class. My hobbies are reading books, playing games, watching TV, and dance. My future ambition to become an English teacher. Can I ask one question, sir?
Yes, please.
What is game teaching method?
What I like about the teaching games is that it teaches you to design, and that can be a very difficult thing, because lots of us, we draw pictures. We when we get an assignment or a lesson to do, we think of maybe one way to do it or one way the teacher wants us to do it. But I think the design process is very important if you're going to create a project and you're going to do something big to show what you've learned. It's really important to have, and I've got my pads of paper all over the place. Here's some of them, right? So I'm constantly drawing and sketching and planning, and that I think is the key part of making a game and learning designing a game and getting it ready for school is to map it all out, get messy, tear paper and erase and try out different things. So it's not easy. It's going to challenge, but the design process, if you can learn that part of it, that works for any future you want to have. It's really important.
Thank you, sir.
Now it's Nagalakshmi's turn. Nagalakshmi, get ready to ask the question.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hi, sir.
Hello.
How are you, sir?
Very well, thank you.
My name is Nagalakshmi. I'm studying in 7th grade. My hobbies are reading books and playing games. My future ambition is to become an English teacher. Can I ask one question, sir?
Yes, please.
Could you please explain your research on game-based learning?
Great. Yes, there's a lot of research on games and how they're used for learning. I summarize it by one of the very important studies that I read that really changed my mind on it. And there's a very important researcher in games, James Paul Gee. And what he said was he challenged people who thought that games weren't useful in school. He said, think about this. When we give students a test, an assessment, they take the test hasn't necessarily, it hasn't been designed for them. Somebody else has designed it. And it only shows what they know or don't know right then and there. But what if the test was to play a game? And if the game was challenging all the way through, like some of you, if you play video games, and if you've ever beaten a video game, you've worked really hard to do that. And think of all the things that your mind has done and gone through and accomplished while you were playing that game, the challenges to win. You don't win right away. You're going to get defeated, then you're going to have to start over, and then you keep at it. And he said, nobody would think of giving that person who finished that game a test on that game because they played it and they defeated. They demonstrated all of this immense amount of knowledge by being able to defeat that final boss at the end of the game. So why would you give somebody a test on paper when they've just demonstrated an incredible amount of knowledge? And that really hit me. And I said, yeah, that's exactly what I want to do. I want to make games for students where I don't need to give them a test at the end of it. And I don't need to stop the game in the middle and say, oh, now let's take a test. No, you're going to play the game. That's where you're going to learn. And that's where you're going to, by finishing the game, I know you will have learned all the material. I'm afraid that my time is up because I have a carpool. I have somebody here in just a minute or so that's going to take me to school because I have to go to school. I'm just starting my day.
Okay, definitely. But we have many questions. In fact, we can ask a little later. Maybe next
Send them to me.
We can ask.
Yeah, please send them to me. Great. I'll answer them all. I'd love to.
Sure. Or John Miller, we can try to have a session, one more session, maybe next week if the time permits you, because I know that you are busy teacher. So if there is any possibility, we can have another session. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye, sir.
Thank you so much, John Miller.
Thank you.
Bye,
Time,
sir.
but we do have
Thank you.
many questions, but time is not permitting us, and permitting even John Miller also. So students, one thing you have to remember. Okay,